Let's talk about the Apple Vision Pro. So initially I said I was going to cancel my order. Clearly it's not canceled, but it's not because I thought the product was bad by any means. But after trying out the demo in store, I didn't think it had anything else to offer, at least for me. But you know who does have something to offer on this channel? Our sponsor, nobody. Let me clarify by saying a demo doesn't offer the full experience in most situations. It's almost like a teaser, but if you try out the Apple Vision Pro demo at Apple, you've gotten most of the experience, at least for a consumer front. And after owning the Vision Pro for a couple weeks, my sentiment towards the device is pretty much the same. Also, after around 10 of my friends trying this, the consensus is generally the same. This is probably the coolest thing that they've tried, but they wouldn't pay for it. Let's back up for a second and give you a breakdown of the device. You have the headset itself, the thing that most people see that I kind of think looks like ski goggles. You have the magnetic seal, which just is attached by magnets, hence the name magnetic. And then you also have this swappable cushion as well, which is also magnetic. Then on the back side of the headset, you have this adjustable stretchy band that kind of conforms to your head. The box also comes with a dual band strap as well. You have the battery pack, of course, that actually powers the device, and it has this unique locking mechanism. But the thing strapped to your head can be broken down into 4 parts. 5 if you want to include breaking off the speakers on the side. In typical Apple fashion, we have the unique way of powering the device, which doesn't look like much with the battery pack, but the locking mechanism is what really makes this separate from other devices that I've seen by Apple. It's almost like MagSafe in a way, but you kind of have to click it in order to power it. So by example here, if you want to power it on, you just line up the white dot, click it in, and then twist, just like that. And then this should light up. This will, of course, be lighting up as well, and then the headset should work. Now, the question I want to answer is, do I think this is overpriced? I don't know. And kind of looking at it, I just realized that it has some etching on the inside that says designed by Apple in California in typical Apple fashion. But like I said before, I really don't know if this is expensive, but to say that it's overpriced may be a stretch. And I'm not here defending Apple by any means, but let's just factor the stuff that's in the headset alone, which has a curved display glass. They say it's laminated. If you guys watch Jerry Rig Everything's video, it's kind of plastic on the inside, but below that layer, it is in fact glass on the outside, which I'll get into in a second. Probably not that expensive when it comes to the lamination, but I think what makes the price really go up are the lenses themselves, and it's a micro LED in both lenses that go up to 100 hertz, which I hope to see more of in TVs because this LCD TV, it's struggling. Regardless, we also have the M2 processor and an R1 processor, also have 12 cameras across the entire headset, a couple sensors as well. We also have a 3D camera, an iris-based biometric, the speakers on the side, which I don't think sound too great, and then obviously the labor and the assembly that is densely packed into this headset itself. Now, that's just the headset itself. We also have to talk about the adjustable strap, which has some really nice quality compared to other straps that I've tried on in the past. This other strap, which I don't think is that expensive. The battery bank, which has that unique locking mechanism that I talked about before. I'm leaving out the cleaning cloth because I don't think that's that expensive. And then I'm also leaving out this protective cover that goes on the front of the Apple Vision Pro. Don't know how much it costs to manufacture that, but I don't think it's too expensive. If it is, or if someone has some insight, please let me know down in the comments below. We do have the magnetic seal as well that, kind of attaches all together really nicely. And that's pretty much the headset itself. That's just the hardware though. We also have to factor in that this is running the new OS that Apple plans to build for in the future. That took time and resources to develop, and it all works really well with just your fingers and eyes, which is going to be factored into cost as well, because people forget to think that R&D and software is part of the price. You're not simply just paying for the hardware, especially when it comes to Apple. And like I said before, it's integrated with the rest of the Apple ecosystem, like the latest iPhones, MacBooks, iPads. I would say probably conservatively, this is worth probably around $1,500, $2,000. Add in the Apple tax, we're at $3,500. So is it overpriced? Sort of, but in some ways, I do think it's a little bit much for me. So price aside, it's the biggest deflector when it comes to selling this device. I think it also looks cooler when I don't have this protective cover on. But my friends all said the same thing. This is probably the coolest headset, and they would buy it themselves. It's just way too expensive. And if anything, they'll just get a Meta Quest 3 instead. Not because the Meta Quest 3 is a better product, it's just more accessible. And guess what is accessible to most people? Well, I was gonna say money, but what I was trying to say is if the barrier of entry is much lower because it's more accessible and more affordable for most people, they're going to buy it regardless whether this is the better product or not. I do want to plant this seed in your guys' head. Do you guys remember when the Apple Watch first launched, how it was expensive back then? It was $400 in 2015. You can get, well, if you factor in inflation and all that stuff, you can get a brand new Apple Watch, $249, $250. If you want to decrease the cost of this Apple, here are my suggestions or recommendations. If there's anything else that you guys think that they could cut corners on, please let me know down in the comments below. But this front display is kind of useless. So if they make a new version, just get rid of this front laminated glass. Like I said, I don't know how much it costs, but it really doesn't provide anything to the user, especially if I'm primarily using it in my home or in my hotel and traveling. Maybe just like a light indicator when the flight attendant is asking me if I want snacks or more water. I think that's much better than a completely glowing display whenever you're inside the headset itself. Could also be distracting on airplanes as well when the lights are dimmed down. Speakers on the outside. Honestly, like I said before, not the greatest speakers. I would say just get rid of this. Chances are an Apple person buying this probably has AirPods, which sound way better than the built-in speakers that come with the Apple Vision Pro. I would also say maybe, and I really do say maybe, you can lower the resolution or use a different type of lighting array for the lenses. But knowing Apple being primarily in the top end market, I don't know if they would sacrifice one of the best headset displays for a consumer to make it cheaper. Now, do we need a 12 camera array for the cheaper models and various sensors? Probably not. I also don't think Apple would go to having cheaper material as well. I think this is probably the material that they're going to go forward with on cheaper models as well. So those are just some of my suggestions on potentially making the product cheaper. So whether or not Apple will make a cheaper model down the road, I think is inevitable. I kind of want to leave off on two things. So ever since 2019, I don't think Apple has put out a bad product. I've said this before, since Apple has been coming out with, these changes in the MacBooks. The iPhones, I will admit, are still pretty stagnant. iPads have been upgraded, AirPods Pro have been upgraded, and it just seems like there's been a change in management, or if there's just new blood in Apple that are finally getting the light that they deserve. But across all Apple SKUs, it just seems like 180 degrees has happened. And this being the Apple Vision Pro, I haven't enjoyed tech this much in quite some time. And the ability to just look at something and manipulate it within the real world with just my fingers is an experience I don't think I'll ever forget. And I think that's what Apple was really trying to sell with this first generation of the Vision Pro headset. And like I've had conversations with other people, this is something that Apple is really good at, and it's making things mainstream. I'm pretty sure other tech tubers talked about it as well. I have never seen a Meta Quest in public ever. However, I've seen dozens of the Apple Vision Pro headset in just walking around. So Apple is really good at making things acceptable. I know a lot of people like to clown on Apple with their designs and whatnot, but what's always funnier is when Apple gets clowned on, all the other companies kind of follow suit and try to replicate their own thing that kind of mirrors what Apple was doing eventually. So with Apple finally making a headset, I don't think it's long before other companies try to make another high-priced headset. Hopefully they make some accessible as well. But I think Apple was really aiming for was making a product that is, for one, a novelty product, and two, to be acceptable in the mainstream world. And it really is hard to describe AR and VR in words because it's something that I feel as though you have to experience. And I really do encourage you guys to try it out yourself. If you are by an Apple store, do a quick 30-minute demo that they offer because it really does feel like a computer is strapped to your face, and having the ability to have multiple windows open that follow you around, you can manipulate them, and the lack of a monitor or TV, an iPad, I don't know if I would want to place my iPhone, but it's able to just do that all in the headset itself. That's what Apple is marketing as. Now, would I want the Apple Vision Pro to replace that stuff? No. I still think that a TV, monitor, home setup, all that stuff is a much better product for now. Might get better in the future, who knows? The question that needs to be answered is, do I think my productivity has increased with this headset? No, and I think people that are saying that the Apple Vision Pro headset is better than their existing dual screen monitor setup sounds like cope to me, and it's the fact that you spend $3,500 on a headset and you're trying to justify it. For me, just my take, could be a hot take to some people, a physical keyboard and a mouse and a monitor are way more useful for my day-to-day, and in terms of things that are compatible, is better than this Vision Pro for $3,500. That is probably the biggest crutch to this, and it's that it's just a very bare bones iPad experience strapped to your face. But I would say even the iPad has more going for it. Outside of like entertainment purposes, I really think this is where it falls short, because even when it comes to gaming, pretty much anything outside of entertainment, it really doesn't seem like it's serving any purpose for me. I made it in my visual video for my first impressions that, yes, there are some companies, some businesses that might get value out of this, especially if you're doing a lot of 3D work, architecture work, 3D modeling. But if you're just a regular consumer trying to have some fun, it's really hard to go into this product and say, this is going to make me more productive, or I'm gonna have more fun than the existing stuff I already have. I would say the only thing that Vision Pro has going for it is that it's more compact on the go. But at this point, I'm perfectly fine with just taking my laptop with me and possibly my Switch as well. So I want to leave off with this. I've tried AR glasses for years at CES and other trade shows, but the difference is Apple took it a step further. They added native hand gestures that, guess what? Most people have. And it's integrated into a software that is usable for their other products. So it just makes more sense to own something like this down the line than, let's say, Ray-Ban glasses, for example, that are compatible with Snapchat, with who's still using Snapchat. This is also a pretty bold statement, but I think out of all the Apple launches, this is probably the biggest thing since the iPhone. I know there's a lot of headlines saying that, but it really does feel as though this is something very unique that is coming from Apple. Has this been done in the past? Yes, AR, VR has been around for decades, but Apple's done it, and they've had their own sprinkle or pizzazz that makes it unique to themselves. Yes, when the iPad came out, it was great. AirPods were actually a pretty big deal. The Apple Watch, I would also say, was a pretty big deal, but from a major milestone standpoint of Apple's track record, this is something that I think we're going to be talking about for years to come. And I'm excited for the future. And if you want a more hands-on video, go check out my previous video. Hopefully you found this video informative. I appreciate every single sub, like, and comment. And as always, guys, much love. Really cool product. Out of all the products I've tried on this channel, this is top 5. And it's going to be there for a while.